Now then, Jack Grealish is teaming up with David Moyes. It's about time, Vish. It's happening. It's football heritage with two such fine men of accomplishment.
I mean, that might be the football equivalent of wearing a posh suit with trainers.
Do you think?
If you consider, like I would say, David Moyes is quite conservative. David Moyes,
Posh suit. I think a solid suit.
Your Sunday best with a suit. You taking that?
Sunday. I was thinking maybe wedding suit or Sunday best. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but basically traditional dower. I'm thinking of like a faded dark brown. And
like a really 70s suit.
Yeah. In fact, that's exactly it. Yeah,
Right.
Not the David Moyes in a towel. David Moyes in a really 70s dull suit with some flash new trainers, which are Jack Grealish.
Some Yeezys.
Yeah, yes, I'll take that.
All right.
So we spoke about this on Monday, and the idea of it is as exciting as the reality, even though we haven't really seen the reality because he hasn't played yet. Because just seeing him in an Everton kit, seeing the new stadium, everything kind of fits really well. We're in a new stadium in a way.
Yeah,
we had to sell Andy Brassel to get it, but it was worth it in the long run. And now they've got someone like Grealish to fill that space of a new stadium.
They've got him for a season because it's a loan move. The deal does include a £50 million option to buy.
50-man option.
A 50-man option.
50 men.
Yeah.
I don't know, swap deal with Chelsea's like cast-offs. That would be the
work,
only way that
actually,
would work, I would think.
You have to lose half your army who are going to fight that gorilla.
Well, apparently,
Get Jack Grealish.
apparently Grealish will have the final say. Is that a good idea, Grealish?
Yeah, I mean, that should be how it works, yeah?
I mean, it is his life.
Yeah, okay, fine.
How is that the surprising bit? That a man might choose where he ends
Yeah,
up?
I think the number is the surprising bit,
But
personally.
the wording for it is he'll have the final say whether Everton want to buy him for 50 million or not.
Yeah, but
I see. So if they say no, he would be like...
Oh, right. So actually, I am going to stick around.
Yeah.
I'm not going to phone ahead.
I don't care that I've played terribly. I love the nightlife in this city. Well, it is happening. I mean, you said that you're very excited about this, Vish. Some might say that Everton, David Moyes, not the most flary of teams, and a manager that maybe doesn't like to play too much flair football. Whereas Grealish, of course, I want to see Grealish, Aston Villa Grealish again. And I actually think there's more chance of it happening, which is why I'm excited. But what would you say to those who are maybe thinking, I wanted him to go abroad maybe, the Napoli link seemed a bit sort of exotic and so on. Why do you think people should be excited for Grealish at Everton?
Because even Aston Villa Grealish wasn't this chaotic shooting star who was just housed, between... within the parameters of a pitch, being able to do what he wanted. He was quite a disciplined player. And obviously he goes to Man City because Pep likes his technical qualities. But he obviously saw, even back then, that there was someone to influence and to not even narrow their focus, but just get him up to a standard where he was
To channel it.
Yeah, but he's like this luxury functional player, wasn't
Yes.
he?
Yeah.
And obviously it worked really well before the injuries took hold, but he was so integral to that treble-winning season. So you kind of think that Everton are getting the best of both worlds. They're getting a player who in their setting will thrive on being the main attraction. And B, they're getting a guy who's basically been schooled by Guardiola for 3 or 4 years or however long it's been.
Yeah. Well, Jim, the Grealish said of the move, it's massive for me, honestly. As soon as I spoke to the manager, I knew there was only one place that I wanted to go. On social media, I've been flooded with messages from Everton supporters. So there's that side of it as well. And that's another reason why I chose Everton. Great to hear him talking like that.
It is great to hear him talking like that because obviously you feel like he's a player who, particularly at this stage in his career, needs to just play, doesn't he? And he will play every game he's available for, I would think. Like unless it gets to the point when they need to rest him because he's been overplayed or whatever, he will be the main kind of attacking fulcrum in that team. And I love that. I think there is a sense that even if Moyes is quite a sort of traditional manager in a lot of ways, there's room for one of those players.
Yes.
He'll have mutton chops within a week. It'll be properly like old school 70s Maverick. That's like best case scenario is how this could go. And I think that's it. You can tell that Grealish is excited that he's going to go and just play. And I think there's no like delusion really about where Everton are at the moment. They know that they're rebuilding at a really crucial time where they're in a new stadium. The team's going to look very different next season. It's probably going to be transitional for a while. And to have him come in there, be the main man, be the star attraction, is such a massive positive that it kind of sucks all the attention towards him and lets them kind of figure everything else out in the kind of shadows almost. And I just think it's a very exciting prospect. I wonder where he's going to play. Is he going to play off the left as he did for City, or would he sort of be a little bit more central as he often was for Villa? That's quite a kind of tantalising thing as well. And I just
Well, he's actually more off the left for Villa, a little bit more centrally, of course. But under Lee Carsley at England, he liked to put him centrally. So I agree with you. I'm quite intrigued by where he is for those 2 games or whatever it was. I'm intrigued where he'll play. But I think the reason why I think it's good that it's David Moyes in charge, because Everton have been, it's not been good times in recent years, and that's partially the reason why Moyes came back. You don't want to have the best stadium in the Championship, for example. And obviously Moyes came back. It was unlikely they were going to get relegated, for crying out loud, especially last season. Moyes comes in, steadies ship. We know. Going into the season, there is huge excitement because of that new stadium, and also as well, I think because of the way they finished last season, it was much better than what happened under Dyche, even though I think Dyche deserves a little bit of credit, of course, for what he did in a very trying time.
He also stopped trying to score, though, didn't he?
That was a problem.
Which will get annoying.
Stopping trying to score, and also him giving himself credit does mean you're reticent to give him credit, but I think one should still. So with Grealish, there's often chat about his off field, behaviour, shall we say, the injuries as well, blah 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 blah. You also have to land somewhere if you're not going to be playing at Manchester City. And we often think, he'll have loads of suitors. Well, will he? It's not necessarily the case with those wages that he has, et cetera, But also, some people may say, has he always acted in a professional manner? So all said and done, Everton, huge club, have come in for him. And I think Moyes is the type of manager who you would hope is a calming presence. And he has had flair players, of course, that he's managed before. But I like the idea of, was it, Liverpool manager at Shankly, you need 10 men to move the piano and 1 man to play it, and all those kind of quotes and so on. And I feel like if that team can work around Grealish and graft, and he is that adds a little bit of stardust to it.
He's a grafter himself, though.
Well,
isn't
he
he?
is,
That's something that's
and that's not
kind
me
of
saying
quite
that
underrated in his game.
Yeah, that's not me saying, because he's experienced relegation and promotion from the Championship with Villa. Most of his career was at Villa, not at Man City. So again, he has that.
But he is, just to reiterate what Jim says, he is a hard worker.
Very much so.
And actually, if you look at his numbers, full stop, across his career, they've never been great. He's never been someone who posts a lot of assists. He's never been someone who scores a lot of goals. But he is that piano player. He is someone who ultimately influences a melody or a rhythm in a team without necessarily being the guy who's front and centre singing the songs.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that, especially if you look at Everton's squad now. Like Kid and Dewsbury Hall, someone like him coming in, and the pieces they've got around Grealish are kind of tailored towards him playing a specific way that isn't so much as, right, here, everything's on you. You're going to carry the responsibility. You're going to carry the load for this team. And that's ideal for someone who is essentially rediscovering his joy for the game.
Yeah. I think he is well placed to be the sort of player who has a kind of Indian summer in his career, particularly because he hasn't actually played that much in the last year or so. So he should, in theory, be relatively fresh. I do think the 50 million option is steep, though. And it makes me wonder if, however well it goes, we might find ourselves back in, having this conversation again next year about where he's going to go, because we know that, Everton, I know money isn't kind of as big an issue as it was in the recent past, but it does seem a lot for a player about to turn 30, doesn't it?
I agree with you, yeah.
Especially for someone who's had the kind of injury struggles that he's had, to the point where Pep Guardiola at the start of this year, maybe the start of this season or the previous season, was talking about how he finds him annoyingly, it was said with affection, but he said he found him unreliable.
Yeah.
Because he just couldn't guarantee how many games he was going to play a season. And a club like Everton can't take that gamble,
yes,
especially at that price, on someone who might only start, let's say, 25 games a season.
Yeah. I think Grealish, so many people in this country have so much affection towards him because of how he plays the game, because of what he's done and just who he is as a character. And you'd have to have quite a hard heart, or maybe be a Liverpool fan for not to want this to work. So, and for Grealish himself, World Cup year, got something to prove. He said he was absolutely heartbroken to be left out of Euro 2024 because obviously the previous Euros to that, he was the darling of the England football team, wasn't he? His own song was brought out. People always wanted to get on the pitch.
Do you remember the anticipation at Wembley when he was about to come on?
Yes,
it was crazy.
And he didn't shrink because of that.
No, not
I remember once it panned round the camera to him, and people cheered, and he looked up and he just smiled. He was like, "Oh yeah, all right then." And that is, it's very difficult not to really like the man. I mean, even Richard Keys tweeted, if the real Jack Grealish turns up at Goodison, obviously he's forgetting that they've changed stadium, it's a great piece of business for Everton. So we're all in agreement with Keys once again.
Will you say that? Would it be the most surprising thing if Jack Grealish turned up at the wrong place for his first day of work?
It wouldn't at all, actually. And what I hate about this from Richard Keys is you don't want to put the idea in Jack Grealish's head that there's another Jack Grealish out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he'll get scared and he'll get worried and he'll get distracted, and you don't want that.
Yeah, that's
I actually heard that part of the reason that he wants to go to Everton is because he won't have to move house, because he thought he would have to physically move his house to the locale of any club that he would end up at. So it's just worked out well for everyone, isn't it, really?
It's worked out very well. So yeah, we're all looking forward to seeing him play in an Everton shirt. My goodness. Now, one of Jack Grealish's former teammates, Aymeric Laporte, has reportedly angered Saudi Pro League club Al Nassr after demanding a contract termination. Al Nassr have now threatened to keep Laporte caged for a year.
How literal is that?
You want to just come to the embassy and we can talk this through?
Bloody hell.
Rather not, actually, yeah. Really would rather not. Do you remember on Monday... at the part of the mailbag, I'm breezing through this. I remember on the mailbag, we talked about how long it would take for the Saudi League to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Can I add another generation onto my answer?
I think you should.
Yeah,
which
maybe.
was after my lifetime.
Yeah.
Which maybe after that joke might come sooner. But certainly, yeah, we can add a generation on that with this kind of nonsense.
Oh, dearie me. Are Newcastle United going to put Alexander Isak in a cage?
Can you also come to the embassy?
The Geordie embassy. He's reportedly adamant that he will never represent Newcastle United again.
Yeah,
but let's remember that winning goal in the cup final, shall we?
Yeah.
It feels a long time ago, doesn't it?
It really does, doesn't it?
Really, really does.
It's one of those things where the shine will eventually come back, I'm sure, for Newcastle fans, but it must be extremely disappointing. I can't really remember the last time a player tried to force a move this dramatically. Probably Peter Odemwingie.
Certainly this publicly.
Yeah.
It feels like we're getting everything from both sides here.
Yeah.
In terms of like the club, both clubs are briefing about one player in very different ways. And the blame is being thrown about to everyone, but primarily Isak.
Yeah. I mean, Isak's perspective is that after being informed last summer that a new contract wouldn't be offered, of course, with improved wages and terms and all the rest of it.
Yeah, which is new information to us, right?
It is, yeah. And that was because of the need to comply with the financial rules.
Sounds like a lie, doesn't it?
He made it clear that it would be his last season with the club, just gone. Which, I mean, Newcastle deny that. And it seems odd because, Jim, you made the point previously on the Ramble that he seems to have left it late to do this. Now, you're not privy to conversations. So if we are to believe that, one might think, well, he was in negotiations going, look, come on. And they just go, no, you're staying here. And they weren't budging. And then he's, rightly or wrongly, I would suggest wrongly, started acting like this. But just whatever one believes, it's just so sad to see all this from the Newcastle United fans' point of view, that this guy, that image of him standing aloft at Wembley with his arms in the air, having scored that second goal, that image.
It's iconic stuff.
It should be, it is, totally. And unless he remains at Newcastle United, they manage to put their differences aside. And this has happened before, and it probably happens more often than we would be privy to. It is a possibility, although it seems quite unlikely at this moment at the time of recording. But if he was to play again for Newcastle and then to get another good season, whatever, and all that kind of stuff, then maybe. But for me, I just think of those fans who had such a great season last year, winning that League Cup final, the scenes of celebration in the city, blah, 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 blah. And to look back on that, so, only months have passed, and for it to be sort of potentially sullied. I don't think it's sullied in terms of the celebration and all, but just to see that guy, Vish, who was the winning goal scorer and such an important piece of that team, I just think it's the romantic in me is crying right now.
Yeah. I mean, it does. this kind of stuff does happen. It happens
Sure.
a lot. As we said at the start, that it's probably been the most public, version of this kind of thing that we've seen. I think, what you touched on there about how quickly it would be to get over it if he stays at Newcastle. I mean, we can kind of see it now. What is it? It's scoring in the first few rounds, couple of wins. It's a sit-down interview with Football Focus.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, actually, he's shown a lot of contrition. It's signing some kind of new deal, and then it's going next summer.
Yeah.
We've seen that play out in many different ways, but it is quite easy to get over whatever distortion there is right now with how he's viewed by Newcastle fans and his quote-unquote legacy at Newcastle. At the same time, it's really something about this feels a little different emotionally. And I think it's because of flat out refusing to play. It's because, as Jim's point about the lateness of it, because it sounded like there was a point where it could have been done amicably at the start of the summer. But because like Newcastle have progressed to a point where they would now be looking for an Alexander Isak of their own if they sell him, it doesn't make any fiscal sense.
No.
So even with the emotional side of it, there's like, well, I mean, we do need it for PSR, but we're then going to create that hole again further down the line.
Doubly so because they need to replace Callum Wilson as well.
Well, yeah.
So they've got they need to sign 2 forward players really, and it's going to be tricky. That there's the added complication that Liverpool are now being linked with both Mark Gay and Giovanni Leone from Parma, because they've kind of recognised that they are probably a bit short at centre back, and they want to address that. And the talk is that they are pursuing both of those players. And you wonder if they sign both of those players, can they afford to spend the 120 plus million it would cost to get Isak out of Newcastle? Probably not.
Well, Newcastle want 150 million. That's what they've said. And Liverpool obviously made an offer of 110 million. So Newcastle value this guy very, very highly, as we all do. And that was at the beginning of August. So Isak thinks Liverpool want me. Now that is look, the temptation to move to Liverpool right now. You can't blame any player, of course. And if they're putting that price tag, they're saying, come and be the man who leads our line. You'll be playing with Salah on one side. You'll have a lovely old time. We're going to win trophies, blah, blah, blah. So I get it. But for Newcastle United, as you say, if this happens at the start of the summer, you got time to find a replacement. But if they need a backup for him, if they were looking already for a backup for him, that's made even more difficult by this, because you're kind of saying to someone, "Oh, you'll be the number 2." He goes, "Well, if Isak goes,
well, this is
well,
it,
we don't rate that."
Like,
it's a strange one.
There's a lot's been made of the players who've turned them down, so to speak. But if Liam Delap or João Pedro are told you're going to come in and understudy Isak, it's very different to being told that you're going to come in and be the main man. Maybe those decisions would have been different.
Yeah, no, completely. So. Goodness knows how it will pan out there and whether we see Isak playing or not. I mean, if it gets to the point the window closes and nothing's been done, it is within Isak and Newcastle United's interests for him to play for them again.
Yeah.
So that is the scenario where he will play again for them, quite clearly. He's not going to have a season off or wait 6 months for January. That's just madness.
Also, I think you need to be sort of... wary around certain elements, because there is some of the reporting suggests that he's refusing to play for Newcastle again without any kind of evidence that he's actually said that. There was another story doing the rounds the other day about how he'd moved house, which is odd.
Moved out of his house.
Yeah, moved out of his house. Like, where's he keeping his stuff? Like, why is he? That seems like it was presented as if it was this real sort of show of defiance. Really, it's like I'm leaving the area, but it turns out that he was always going to move out of this property because it had been burgled twice. Right, so that is one of those things where it's presented as one thing, but the actual story is something completely different. Yeah. And I think it's just a reminder that we rarely get the full story with these things.
Yeah, and as you said, Vish, these kind of things have happened before, and it's patched up, and the player plays again for them. And I think it was Andros Townsend who was asked about this. Now, obviously, everyone in football's experiences are different, so there will be differing stories about other players potentially. But he said, when I've played in teams, when there has been a bit of a saga or a player's trying to force him in, blah, 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 he said, as other players, you're aware that something's going on, but you don't dig into the details. And if they have come back, everyone just goes, "Hey, he's back," and that's it.
Right.
Because your teammates, what they did last season and so on, they obviously enjoy playing with him.
And all players move, right? It must be so normal in their world.
I think people, so the idea of it being irreparable, I don't agree with, because again, if he doesn't go, and it's an enormous amount of money, Liverpool really the only place where he could go. I know Arsenal were interested; they've got Gyökeres.
Yeah.
So Liverpool were the only side that he could go. If Liverpool deem it, as you say, well, actually, we're going to focus on a centre half or something, then he will be staying. So it's either he stays or he goes to Liverpool. And so, again, in the next few weeks, it'll be interesting if they come back with an improved bid. One player that could leave Newcastle United, and if he were to leave, then I think he would be clapped out of the city, is Kieran Trippier. He could link up with his old teammate Eric Dier at Monaco. That, ladies and gentlemen, would be a lovely old
That's
job.
a sweet gig.
Yeah.
Getting to hang out with Eric Dier.
See, Monaco to me, if you want to make a few quid, but still play in a decent league, sunny climes, all the rest of it, you should be looking for Monaco way before any Saudi Pro League bollocks.
Isn't it tax-free?
Jim, whatever you want. Yeah. We really should relocate to Monaco.
Yeah, we should.
Surrounded by, it's a hive of scum and villainy. Let's be clear.
We don't have to live there. We can work there. We can live in the south of France.
Right, well, you've just given our game plan away there.
Well, no one's going to... HMRC can't get us over there.
I thought the game plan was believe.
Yeah.
Did we be talking about any of this?
That's true enough. Well, look, if Kieran Trippier goes to Monaco to team up with Eric Dier, once again, you'd have to have a very hard heart not to kind of have a little smile and a kind of, a toast to the two English boys out there on the Riviera.
Have a hard heart or just not be as obsessed with England players as you are.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Fish, what do you reckon?
Of all the things are like, oh yeah, you don't have a soul if you don't love the idea that Eric Dier and Kieran Trippier might hang out.
In Monaco.
Ludicrous, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be great if they're like, we don't know that they're actually friends. Obviously, in your head, the England squad, when they meet up, they're the best
they're
of mates.
Come on.
Yeah, maybe they've just never
Of course,
clicked.
Jim, they're mates, aren't they?
But I wonder if maybe they have like a slightly just an awkward relationship that it's like professional and they're fine.
Don't be silly. Don't
But it's
be
just like,
silly.
oh, no, I've got to talk to him every day.
Just into
I'm not going
different
to learn
things.
French. I've got to talk to him every day.
Wow. Learn Portuguese. You can talk to him in 2 languages.
Well, he does. Well, I suppose Trippier learning Portuguese. I like it, yeah.
Yeah, see what I did there. Well, anyway, everybody, we'll wait and see if that happens. But if it does, then I'll see you there for the opening day of the season. Coming up after this, Crystal Palace are going to win the Europa Conference League.
What's your go-to meal deal? I don't think I've ever had a meal deal.
What sandwich would you get? Like chicken,
Jam?
bacon?
Well, back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Cole Palmer, apparently liking a jam sandwich. I used to like a jam sandwich when I was a kid. Have you had one of those M&S strawberries and cream sandwiches?
No, I've heard that they're like really popular and like they keep selling out because I think people are eating them on TikTok.
It works, Jim.
Really?
The rumours are true. It works.
Wow.
Yeah, well done.
Why wouldn't it have worked?
Well, I think because you've got strawberries and cream in a sandwich. It just sounds odd.
No, it doesn't. It sounds great.
Yeah, I
Two
know.
things that go together with carbs.
I know. Well,
People gone mad.
but I think
why
it's-
is that weird?
I think it's more on what's the sort of slightly sweeter bread?
Brioche.
Brioche, yeah. It's. I think it's a.
Sorry, why is that?
Well,
why
no-
are people so surprised?
Well,
by
no,
that?
but I think when people hear it's brioche, they go, oh, "Okay, I'm listening."
Not everyone's a foodie like you, Vish.
It's not. It's just
Not everyone's a
cream,
foodie like us,
something
Vish.
sweet and bread.
I know, Vish. I know, but I think when it first came out, people
We
were a bit
should
like,
bring. We could do it.
I
We
know.
should bring out our own Ramble sandwich.
a Ramble sandwich.
Ramble
What would
wedge.
be in that?
That's one for uncut.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got some correspondence from Supernova Dragon on YouTube. Following on from your comments about Infantino last week, who would you like to see take over FIFA? Serious and joke answers welcome. Well, I'm glad you say that, Supernova, because that's what you're going to get. Jim.
If I may be vaguely serious, Roberto Baggio has done a lot of humanitarian work, hasn't he? And I think
Well, he's not fit for it at all, then.
Well, indeed, but have
you seen the remit?
FIFA being guided by someone who isn't purely seemingly out for kind of financial gain and kind of personal glory would be quite good.
I mean, he might actually fail the fit and proper person.
He could, yeah, by being fit and proper.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I think they're probably quite fed up of, leader after leader generating sort of negative press. So I think they could craft like a special Muppet where it's all acknowledged that it's just a character and it's not a real person, and therefore like nothing will stick to it.
that would be very clever. I'd probably have the king of Saudi Arabia.
Cut out the middlemen.
Yeah.
Not literally cut them out, but
let's
yeah,
just
get rid
let's
of
just
them,
get
yeah.
straight to it.
Yeah.
Who's really saying this?
Yeah. Can we just hear it from the horse's mouth, please?
Be more honest, wouldn't it? In a
Yeah.
way, I did think though that since now he's kind of on board with it all. Let's be honest. If he's still alive, which he will be,
Trump.
yeah.
Yeah, Trump's not going to die.
Who's the bloke who has a Sunday roast at 5 a.m. every morning? Tom
5 a.m.?
Skinner. Yeah.
Bosch, that fella.
Yeah, but he's like,
Claimed he
he's a
came up
different
with
Bosch.
the word Bosch.
Yeah. Him. Give it him.
There's another one. What about a mildly serious answer? Someone we would all sort of try and take seriously, and he wouldn't take any crap. Pierluigi Collina.
Yeah,
Referee.
But then you've got to be careful because someone
Can't have a
who
narc as the...
it's like when people say, "Oh, Alan Sugar should have been mayor of London when he was on The Apprentice." I mean, look what happens if you take that particular route.
I'm not one of those people.
No, I know you're not.
Yeah, thanks. Just to clarify, but you've always got to be careful that because if you become the FIFA president, he's just going to corrupt you.
Yes.
Like that's how far down the road that is. It's quite sad. So to try and get someone to wrestle that back, I think will be quite frankly impossible. So
Will he have a whistle with him?
I would like that, but would you want
He'd
someone?
be a whistleblower at the very top, wouldn't he?
Now you're talking. You see,
yeah.
it works. Kalina's the answer there, Mr. Dragon. Jim's deer bite is the subject of this next piece of correspondence.
Right on the belly.
Sino or Sino, depending on which part of the world you're from, on X, said, I was in Nara, Japan, recently and got bitten by 6 deer.
That's where I got bit.
But you only got bitten by 1.
There were 3 of them rushed me, 1 of them bit me.
True.
He's sent us a picture.
2 of them held you down.
Yeah, I mean, he's just being attacked by deer. He's surrounded by the wankers.
Yeah.
They are different beasts in that particular park, I'm telling you. Beware.
Maybe he was listening to the Ramble and they were like, you mates with Jim Campbell. You know Jim Campbell.
Has he been talking about us again?
They set on him.
Tell him we sent you.
There we are. Right then, everybody. The news came in, obviously, the other day that Crystal Palace have been booted out of the Europa League. The Court of Arbitration for Sport upheld UEFA's decision to demote Palace from the Europa League to the Conference League. CAS said, regulations are clear and do not provide flexibility to clubs that are non-compliant on the assessment date. So Palace will face either Norwegian side Fredrikstad or Danish side Midtjylland in the Conference League playoff round later in August. So not only are they not in the competition that they should be in, they've got this annoying playoff round to play, which you would fancy them to win, but it's extra football. And also as well, at a time when they've just won the Community Shield as well, a bit of cheer going on, and that's...
And they might be distracted just by how annoyed they are in every single game they're playing there. That's going to be something to kind of deal with, isn't it? And the statement from Palace has been really, really strong. It was essentially talking about how poor the process was, how lacking in transparency it was. And I think they've been essentially been brilliant in how kind of strongly worded it's been, talking about how it needs to be a sort of watershed moment for the way that football is governed. And there was an interesting quote within that statement, which I'm going to read now, which said, multi-club structures hide behind the charade of a blind trust, while clubs such as ours, who have no connection to another club whatsoever, are prevented from playing in the same competition. And it's an interesting point, because the blind trust thing it's just a transparent, mechanism used to just circumvent the rules, isn't it? No one's pretending it's not that. I feel so sorry for Palace here. It's just essentially kind of sticklers for admin have just made an element of this season a lot worse here. There was really no kind of solid argument for demoting Palace like this.
Well, what I was going to say, Vish, is that they did break the rules and I think
punished,
and should be punished.
Yeah.
And
I didn't think you were going to say that on mic, but that's good of you. What was the other stuff you were saying about the muggy little fans?
No, I think I've
keep
made
it down.
Something about their eagle.
I think I've made the point.
Yeah.
Good riddance. No, I mean, is there any? I mean, I think personally, Jim's kind of articulated this quite well, as others have. Do you have any kind of feeling of, they didn't comply originally with what's going on? One can say, well, the rules are a bit silly and whatnot. That is a very Manchester City argument, by the way. Do you think it is 100%, feel sorry for Palace? Do you think there's any kind of room to say, any sympathy with UEFA in that they're saying, well, look, these are the rules. We don't want multiple ownership being a thing in competitions further down the line. They're thinking, what if two sides owned by the same guy are playing in a final, semi-final, whatever?
Because this is not that, is it?
No, it's
miles
not
away
that.
from it. That's the issue. Right?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yes, there's obviously a bit of that in, I suppose, how we should not necessarily talk about it, but react maybe to the ruling, because there is something there that they have been found guilty of. At the same time, as Jim said, it's not quite the same thing as other people. Well, as Jim and Crystal Palace's statement said, people hide behind that blind trust, and they're able to navigate the rules in a way that when they change constantly, as they have been doing since multi-club ownership has been a thing to be wary of, teams have just adjusted and been quite nimble about it. And in Palace's case, there's almost a situation there where they've risen too quickly into these competitions and not had a moment to think, oh, right, we should probably look into our own admin and try and see how we might be able to circumnavigate.
Well, Marianakis and Forest did that.
Yeah, they did, yeah. Because the other thing about it is
he's a stickler for the rules, as we know.
He is famously, yeah. Apart from just don't fucking walk on the pitch. But there's almost an element here that because the person that made them come a cropper, John Textor, has been so public in all the things he's done wrong throughout his ownership, he's almost become a beacon for, there's a moth to a flame if you're someone who's being pernickety about those admin rules and looking at this American businessman and thinking, I don't think he knows what he's doing. So therefore, there's a lot of stuff to go into. Yeah. It's almost like going into his records because he's dodgy, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard not to feel sorry for them. They're going to lose out on a serious chunk of money by not being in the Europa League, full stop. Yes, they're more likely to win the Conference League and they'll still enjoy it. The other thing, and I'm looking forward to it because I think it'll be interesting, it feels like you get a bit of clout when you boo the Champions League anthem. The Europa League and Europa Conference anthem, they're too cheery.
See where you're going with this.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't boo Balamory, would you? Or not
knowingly.
No, but yeah, unwittingly.
I didn't realise.
Refuse to stand for Balamory.
I thought it was another one.
Yeah, but they'll have that to contend with, and it'll seem a bit silly. But
yeah, I think
they've got the legal side of it and silliness.
Yes, I honestly think they're going to win the Europa Conference League now. My thoughts.
Yeah,
on
you've been
this.
saying this a long time. So
look, I'm trying to. Here you go, Palace. I'll try and give you a bit of positivity here because obviously you'll be pig sick about this decision, and I get that because of the financial thing. There's bigger clubs to play in the Europa League, so I understand all that.
The booing thing as well.
The booing thing,
yeah.
I think Palace. What's going to happen here? Palace will win the Conference League, so they go into the Europa League. Whereas if they were in the Europa League this coming season, I'm not sure if they would win that competition. They'd have a chance.
Well, it's different now that Champions League teams don't get, as it was last year, Champions League teams.
I said they'd have
still a higher standard, though.
Yeah, of
it
course,
is higher standard. They'd have a chance, and obviously Glasner at the wheel. You've always got a chance to win a cup competition. With
also, I did like that when they dropped down, they were like, well, we were going to try and win it. It's like, I say that all the time. It could have been a contender, yeah.
There you go. So I think this extends Palace's European run because they've got European football this season and they'll get European football next season in the Europa League, of course.
Yeah,
having won the Europa Conference League.
I really hope that you're right. Obviously, we all want Palace to win that competition, and there will be a sense of justice being done with a trophy on the way as well, which would be brilliant. Sort of back-to-back trophies in successive seasons when you'd never won one before would be excellent as well. But Palace are not Chelsea, If you
they're
look
not West
at,
Ham either.
They're not, no. But if you look at kind of when they come up against an equivalent of a Real Betis, who aren't in there this season, but Fiorentina obviously are. The Fiorentina
Palace.
live in this competition. You might fancy them, but there is competition in there. Strasbourg are in there as well. I mean, there are teams like AZ Alkmaar, Admiral Alkmaar, Besiktas, Rayo Vallecano. A lot of those teams, you go, yeah, Palace probably would have that. But,
okay, Jim.
Can we just go to Palace Fiorentina now is what I'm saying. Can we just do it now?
Right. So you've mentioned those sides, and I understand why you're doing it. I'm going to be a little cheeky. I think Palace are going to win the Europa Conference League. Who do you fancy for it?
I fear that it might finally be Fiorentina's time.
I suppose you couldn't begrudge them that. If
Yeah,
they did
I
it.
want Palace to win it, obviously.
Yeah.
I like the way you started that
Just
with
nervous for them.
Palace are not Chelsea, which would have been Palace's argument to Cast.
Yeah.
We're not Chelsea, come on.
Crying out loud.
They seem to be doing all right.
Yeah. More bad news for Palace. Tottenham are exploring a deal for Palace's Eberechi Eza. I think if he went
This
to
is
Arsenal,
bullshit.
If they went
This
to,
needs to be stopped.
if he goes to Arsenal, they'll go, yeah, fair enough. If he goes to Spurs, come on, that's a step down. But they are a Champions League side, Vish, as I keep trying to remind people.
The other thing, like, we talk about PSR and fair play and all this, but with the...
Yeah, throw the book at them.
But with less money coming in, they've got... they're not able to, I suppose, push their wage ceiling as high as they maybe would have done. And stuff like this is going to happen, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with that injury to James Maddison, which is,
it becomes
really
a
bad.
really, really crucial position now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they obviously tried to sign Morgan Gibbs-White as well. That didn't happen. So it kind of makes sense going for Eberechi Eze, who we just know he's such a fabulous player. I mean, Arsenal, as I understand it from reading the reports, they're trying to move on a few players. Trossard was named.
Potentially, there's talk that Trossard or Martinelli could be up
Yeah.
for sale, depending on the kind of bid that comes in. And there's some fringe players that Arsenal historically are quite bad at moving on.
Yes.
Talk that Zinchenko might actually see out his contract rather than move now. So there are players they need to move on. Reece Nelson.
Just give
is
Reece Nelson to
apparently-
Fulham. Stop
well,
this pissing
apparently
around.
he wants a loan for another season, and the club are trying to. Arsenal are certainly trying to make it permanent, etc.
He's not Jack Grealish. He doesn't get to decide.
But Arsenal have been quite poor at selling, and that has not improved in this summer. So the talk is that there's already been conversation with Eza. Some reports say there's already been conversation with Crystal Palace. So essentially, it seems like Arsenal need to get players out the door before they can sanction another move like this. And I think they do need another kind of creative player. He would absolutely improve the squad. It's not kind of, you might look at him and go, oh, where does he fit immediately? But I think sometimes that you can overthink that. He spends a lot of his time kind of in wide areas. If you look at his heat maps, like I do, because I'm just refreshing Arsenal Eza about every 20 minutes, trying to find new information on this. But yeah, if he goes to Spurs, I think there needs to be some sort of inquiry, just nationally.
Fine. Well, I wanted to say, well, we just want to see him playing football, but he does that at Palace.
He does, yeah.
Wherever he plays, Jim.
We just want to see him play football in North London.
No. Well, in London. If he stays at Palace, I'm very, very happy with that as well. I mean, again...
It's hard to get to. You've got to take a proper overground train.
Yeah, but it's a proper local club, though.
I know, but it's not really in London. It's Croydon.
Take that up with those who draw up the lines. Take it up with the London Borough Council of Croydon, presumably. Now, the CAS decision means that Nottingham Forest will replace Crystal Palace in the Europa League, which is good news for Forest. What is also good news for Forest is that they are close to agreeing a deal to sign Manchester City's James McAtee after McAtee said yes to this deal. We saw him in the Euros, Vish, a fine player, and one of those players where you thought to yourselves, we've seen this with Cole Palmer. We've seen the talent that they produce. Now, obviously, Oscar Bob, Phil Foden being a great example. There's a number of players who have stayed, and Phil Foden is the ultimate example that he got his place in the team and those who are still knocking around the squad and pushing doors. Whereas McAtee was one after that Euro under-21 win and that sort of window, if you like. We saw the talent he possesses. And I think a few people were thinking, surely he'll fancy a move. Surely a player with that quality will want to start playing first team football. So it's not a huge surprise that a Premier League club who have European football, Europa League football, we can now say, have got in for him. And again, without sounding, without repeating myself too much, I want to see this young man play as much football as possible. So this seems like a great move.
Yeah, it seems like a really good fit as well, especially when they've kept Gibbs White. And say if he plays in midfield or if he plays out wide, then you've got him, Elliot Anderson, and Gibbs White as this creative trio who can basically mix and match where they are, and probably gives because McAtee is obviously very exciting, but he's very disciplined as well, and so you end up with being able to give Gibbs White more rope. And I don't know how they plan on replacing Anthony Elanga, for example, but it's a different way of playing that then gives you the same kind of options that maybe Elanga would without obviously the out and out speed. But yeah, no, it is really exciting. And it's almost like, sometimes you'd have to wait for Man City to play a League Cup game to see all their exciting youngsters,
Mm-hmm.
or injuries, as we saw last season.
Yes.
And this is quite a nice way of, you almost see a player like that go and do well in the way that Cole Palmer did.
Mm-hmm.
And it strikes fear into you because they're like, wow, they just have this on tap now, haven't they?
Yeah.
And you know what we said about Cole Palmer? He was able to, not that his creativity would have been stifled had he stayed longer at Man City, but he would have been more functional for their specific needs.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if McAtee is at the same point in his career, simply by being young, but also being a midfielder who seems to have so many different options open to him.
Yeah.
Like he plays well with and without the ball. He can drive with it. He can, play lovely little passes. As we saw a couple of times last season, purely because of the positions he was playing. But he was like arriving late into the box, a bit of like for a bit of a throwback, but almost in a quite Lampard way. Like
that's
at the back
often
post.
the reference point. Yeah. But I get it totally.
And so who knows what kind of midfielder he will be at Nottingham Forest? And I say that in an exciting way rather than fearing the uncertainty.
Yeah. And also as well, Jimmy, he's 22. So, one could often think, oh, he's a Man City graduate. What is he, like 17, 18? But at 22, and did have, what was it, 1 or 2 seasons at Sheffield United. So has played a bit of football. And I think this shows ambition.
Oh,
actually,
very much
because
so.
I mean, I get that if you stay at Man City, you go, no, I'm going to fight for my place. But I think for his experiences in football, evidently suggests he's like, no, I want to go out there. And
Well, he wants to go and be kind of a key figure in an upwardly mobile club.
Yes.
And I think actually there's a further kind of spice to this as well. If we sort of like circle back to the potential that Eberechi could leave Palace, he'd be a really good replacement. And Forest have gone, maybe we'll just see you off at the pass on that one. It's like they've got this real personal vendetta led by the man upstairs, obviously. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting Marinakis. Yeah, absolutely, very much so.
God loves Crystal Palace, surely.
Yeah, he's beyond stairs though, isn't he? It's way further up. I think actually the signing of Igor Jesus is really interesting as well for Forest. They're going to be a very interesting prospect this season. I think potentially quite exciting. But I guess it's all down to how they manage the Europa League, right? And those extra games.
It is.
Yeah. Obviously, Nuno's going to be first to go, as we predicted last season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
that's how far ahead of things we are.
We are doing our prediction show, which is released this week. So, look out for that.
Already thinking I might have mugged off Forest again.
Yeah.
Mine.
Jim, we're all in the same boat. Coming up after this, Spurs take on PSG in the UEFA Super Cup. Yep, the Super Cup. It's popped up again. PSG versus Tottenham. It's been played at the home of Udinese.
Why not?
Yeah, well, indeed, Jim. Why not? I mean, it always used to be many years ago in Monaco, of course. Then it's doing the rounds, and I thought that's lovely. Lovely to hear the name.
Lovely
Udinese.
that it's not in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, still got.
Oh,
more.
that's coming, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Of course it is. Of course it is. The winners of this trophy will receive €5 million in prize money, and because of Brexit, that's £5 million.
At least give it to us in Monaco.
I know. Yes, exactly.
Just in a briefcase.
Yeah. Got to pay import tax on the way back in.
Yes,
If
indeed.
Tottenham win it.
That's right. Who do you fancy for this one? Chelsea showed that it's possible.
Yeah. I would quite like Tottenham to do it. I think it'd be funny.
I'm sorry, Jim. You're
Right here.
You're outvoted here. I think I'd love Tottenham to beat
Yeah,
them.
I think it'd be really nice. I can't really see it because PSG have become this kind of big time team in quite an annoying way.
Uh-huh.
And also it'd be funny if Fabian Ruiz just had another medal around his neck that he thought was an inconvenience and made him look less cool.
Yeah.
I think Tottenham would be quite a fun way to cap off what have been quite a strange 6 months of
Yes.
winning the Europa League,
Yeah.
finishing where they did in the league,
Mm-hmm.
sacking Ange Postecoglou, getting Thomas Frank, doing sensible things, and then just winning the Super Cup. It'd be absurd and almost a quite distilled, new agey.
Yep.
How absurd are Tottenham as a football club?
Yes. Yeah, I think if just a handful of months ago, let's assume that they beat PSG. A handful of months ago, you said, Tottenham are going to win the Super Cup and beat PSG in the final. But that's none of that's possible.
Yeah,
none of it's possible.
I mean, as we saw in the Club World Cup, though, PSG can be got at, and a lot of this will be down to kind of how ready they are for their respective seasons. Right? It is essentially, well, it's not. Of course, it's not a friendly because there's a trophy at the end of it, but it's a pretty unique game to prepare for. And I suppose it's the culmination of your pre-season and the last chance to get everything ready for your domestic season. And being sensible about it, obviously, you have to look at this objectively and just admit that there is something very romantic about PSG winning this.
But the other thing about it is PSG, while we spoke a lot last season of the way they've tailored their squad and the lack of quote-unquote superstars, there are players there with a lot of money, and they are still a status-driven club, and this remains the ultimate status game. Obviously, it is the Champions League final, but this is, you walk out onto the field as European champions.
Yes.
It is almost, you've had the crowning moment, and this is basically the homecoming.
It's about proving it again, isn't it? Really,
Yeah. This is almost a game for your benefit to show people how good you are if you are the Champions League European champions.
Yes. Which is another reason why I want Spurs to win it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it would be
Because there's
hilarious.
an element of like, why is the jester getting involved?
Yes. Totally.
Why is he setting?
Because
that's my crown. Why is he humping it?
But like in a way, like when you think about the kind of the merits of getting into that game, it would in a weird sort of perverse way, it would almost make more sense if the Champions League final was replayed for this game. Because the Europa League, what you have to do to qualify for that competition is not
that
as...
would be so boring.
Yeah, well, of course it would be. Which is why it wouldn't happen. And again, I'm not... Because originally, the UEFA Cup, when it was called the UEFA Cup, was the teams who finished second and third, or second in some of the smaller leagues, second and third in some... Which is why it was a bigger trophy to win back in the day.
Yeah.
In fact, some people might argue that in certain seasons, there was more quality in the UEFA Cup. You're going back a number of years now than say the European Cup as it was. So when those two faced each other, it felt like, oh right, okay. Whereas with this, the Europa League, you're kind of thinking, is it like the sixth best team in England or the seventh? Oh, I know the Spurs finished lower, but how you qualify to play the Champions League winners? It seems a bit more of a mismatch nowadays.
Yeah, you're kind of. I feel like you're angling towards the Europa Conference champions and the Europa League champions should face off in an eliminator that decides who then plays the Champions League winner. Because there aren't
don't put ideas in their head.
There aren't enough games.
Don't put ideas in their head. But I tell you what, though, PSG's midfield, we know that is very, very effective, and you need to do something to stop it. Well, who better than João Palhinha, Jim?
Well, indeed, yeah. I mean, and I think
on.
people are sleeping on quite how good he is a bit. I know we've already mentioned this on the show, and you're obviously a huge fan of him. But yeah, he's he could be transformative for them.
Yeah. I mean,
it's one of the most outrageous signings of the window.
Do you think?
Because
It's gone so under the radar, though.
because of all the back and forth to get him to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
And the way that, because he played so well, he got to a level that basically ruled out loads of other landing spots. And he became like a premier, what still is by all accounts, but he became like a premier acquisition that only certain teams, A, could afford, B, also, in a naff way, deserved.
Well, he was being linked to Liverpool, obviously, before he went to Bayern.
Liverpool, huge.
Yeah.
Well, won the league last year. Constant Champions League, latter stages club. Bayern Munich, don't really need to say anything more than that.
But he didn't do that well at Bayern, which is why he's...
No, he did. And then, but like, he's not suddenly bad.
No, of course.
And so Tottenham have been able to come in and be like, well, we can afford those wages over a year.
Yeah.
And take more of that off your wage bill than other teams are willing to.
Yes.
And have this incredible player. I don't really know the ins and outs of an initial fee, what they might be paying during it, what they might be contributing to his wages, but it feels like a hell of a deal that they've pulled off there.
And also, he'll be a player that Frank will love to have. Because, again, with the way Frank operates, and it'd be intriguing to see what obviously one game, but this is the type of game that Frank's never been involved with, really, in his managerial career. Certainly not, Brentford, you would say.
I don't know, but they've always...
A Super Cup final.
Oh, I see what you said. I thought you meant like in terms of... I thought you were talking about Palhinha in terms of like finding value, because that is...
Oh, no, I'm saying in this particular game. And again, I'm very intrigued as to how Thomas Frank will do. I think he'll do well. I actually think I do too. I think he'll do really well at Spurs, without jinxing it for you, because that is not a thing. But I think Palhinha and him should be a really good fit. I think that a manager like Frank, to pit his wits against PSG, again, if you're looking at it from a neutral perspective, Jim, if one can, then he knows how to take on bigger opponents. We've seen that with his Brentford side.
It's all upside, really, isn't it?
Yeah, disrupting them, all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. With the players, he has a better squad now at his disposal, a squad that is hungry for more, having won that Europa League.
And also probably really eager to prove itself.
Yes, absolutely. So, and PSG have not played any pre-season games since losing to Chelsea in that final.
So that's interesting as well. They could catch them cold.
Let's catch them cold. Is what
a lot of drama there as well, as we'll come on to.
Yeah. Spurs drew against League One clubs Wycombe Wanderers and Luton in pre-season. They did beat Arsenal 1-0 though, Jim.
Well, there you go.
So we shall see. Yves Bissouma won't play for Tottenham Hotspur in that Super Cup against Paris Saint-Germain due to ill discipline. Frank said, he's been late several times and now this time was just one too many. With everything, you need to give players a lot of love and there needs to be demands and consequences. It sounds like Frank's been really fair to him.
Yeah, it does.
If we take him on his word,
really
which
does.
I think we should.
And I think he's even been very fair to him with those quotes, isn't
Well, I think so as well. And again, it shows you, I think, what a great operator Frank is, because seems to get that emotional intelligence, which not all managers do. It's a difficult thing, of course. We know he's tactical now as well. But players seem, again, we only got Brentford to go on, but players seem to love playing for him and respond well to him. And the way he's handled himself is already, as Spurs number one, to me, he just looks and sounds the part.
This is such a simple win as well.
Yes.
Just turn up on time.
Yeah, and he's,
If you
he's
turn
made
up on
that
time-
clear, isn't he?
We'll have no issue.
No, turn up on time after the third or fourth time of asking.
Yeah.
So it's even easier.
And at no point could Basuma come out and say, well, actually, it was only 3 times, because he's not even put a number on it. He was like, it's happened a few times. Told you should be on time. Obviously, we wouldn't get a show out if we operated like that.
Yep.
But you cannot just expect to keep getting away with it.
Yeah. What about this, gentlemen? Gianluigi Donnarumma left out of the PSG squad to face Spurs in the Super Cup tonight. And it seems he's going to be on the move. Did you see that statement that he released? Basically saying...
Punchy stuff.
Yeah, it was like, thanks so much. This has been an amazing time at this club. It's been decided by the powers that be that I'm no longer wanted here. I don't want that. But that's the way it's going, or that's the way it's gone. So thanks very much. I mean, he's basically said goodbye, has he not?
Yeah. I mean, he's thanked the fans, but he's obviously has a lot of ire for the way it's been handled. And it's been a really sudden thing, hasn't it? It's kind of... I know they've obviously signed Lucas Chevalier, who was widely considered to be the best goalkeeper in League One last season. But it's surprising that the communication has been so poor. And Donnarumma is a frightening prospect when you're coming up against him. When the team you support is coming up against him, as we've all felt with England. The idea of him angry and at large is even worse, isn't it? I don't know if he'll even join a club. I think he'll just pop up in the middle of games, just making ridiculous saves.
Yeah.
Like, nope, not having that.
Like a goalkeeping kraken.
Yeah, just popping up.
England are practicing
the
penalties,
ground.
and he's just, oh no, like just everywhere. I mean, he's only 26 as well, and PSG reportedly want 26 million for him. I know his reputation.
Oh God, he's not 110.
Indeed, like Alexander Isak, presumably. I know his reputation in England is particularly high because of the Euros, because of the saves he's made, and the way PSG knocked out so many Premier League sides on the way. But just some of the saves were just phenomenal. But his reputation in France or specifically PSG, with maybe like things like his distribution and one or two, he has made an odd error here and there. He's not perfect. Well, I think we see him as this absolute Adonis, and understandably so.
But there's a clear flaw in his game, isn't
which
there?
is why they obviously want to move him on. But it does seem odd to us as English football fans who don't really watch the Ligue 1 that much. Because whenever we see him again, he's just this unbeatable force.
Well, he feels like a throwback, doesn't he? He feels like he would have been maybe the best goalkeeper in the world in the 90s or the 2000s.
Indeed,
but
indeed.
The way goalkeepers kind of are involved in build-up a lot more now is doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon, does it? So,
and it's not just that. As I say, there have been one or two little errors he's made, and so. But
I mean, most goalkeepers have that, right?
Right. It seems a bit harsh from again where we're sitting, but there's obviously a reason for this. The really worrying thing, though, is that Man United are monitoring the situation.
Do you think there's an upgrade on Onana?
Jim, he'll be ruined if he goes there, and maybe that's a good thing. As England fans, maybe we want him to go to Man United.
Yeah. Somehow.
I love that Man United fan is agreeing with us on that point.
Somehow, despite the positive noises out of Manchester United this summer,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Donnarumma came to Manchester United and somehow his arms shrunk. Because the thing, the characteristic we all associate with him is those,
People
very,
just
very
belt
long
his
arms.
penalties past him one-on-ones. He's getting absolutely nowhere.
happened?
Something to do
Yeah.
with the pressure in the Eurostar. What?
Why have I just got elbows? What's this?
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the Donnarumma and Chevalier comparison is that Chevalier is often described as a five-a-side player.
Yes.
Right.
And given, Luis Enrique and presumably the way he wants to
yeah.
expand this potential era of domination that PSG could come into.
Playing a false one.
Yeah, well, yeah, to a
what
point.
it is, Jim.
Yeah. That is obviously the next situation. And as you said about Donnarumma being a throwback, he's very much a child of Buffon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
And so, it is unfortunate, but he will find an end as well. Like, he's perfectly competent with his feet.
Yeah.
So
But that's why I think moving to this country, he's so well respected here because of what he's done. But it just seems quite remarkable, again, from where we're sitting in England, to see a guy they've just cleaned up. They've won the Champions League. He kept a clean sheet in the final, but that was, the whole team. It's not, he still made a good save in the final. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
But on the way, some of the saves he made,
That one against Martin Odegaard. Unbelievable.
just stunning saves. You think to yourself, how are they just so happy to just kind of go, yeah, we've,
Yeah.
But that's football tactics. It moves around and so on. And whoever signed him, because Man City are also interested as well.
James Trafford's got to be gutted about that, hasn't he?
Well, indeed. I mean, obviously a bit of competition with Edison, but yes.
An early Ramsdaling.
imagine if he goes to Newcastle.
That'd be a sickener. Absolute sickener. Well, anyway, would I like to see him in the Premier League? Yeah.
At least we know that
Twice a season, you'd absolutely hate it, but otherwise I think
Yeah.
you'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
something about him being in the Premier League. At least we know where he is.
Yeah.
He's on. We think he's on this island at any point.
That's right.
He's
Yeah.
definitely here somewhere.
Park somewhere that he shouldn't do. They try to give him a penalty. Oh, he stops that. Just everything. Right, let's end with this. Former Spurs manager Ange Postecoglou. He was filmed being fed steak by a Salt Bay-inspired chef.
Leave him alone.
Greece.
Why are we watching this?
They've made it sound like he's in this sort of really opulent kind of orgy scene where he's just sort of draped around in a toga being fed things.
With his Europa League medal.
Yeah.
Like a medallion.
No,
Yeah.
but he uses the medal to wipe the side of his mouth when he gets a bit of grease rolling down it. And it makes it extra shiny.
I think it's piss poor from Ange. I thought he was a man of the people. Look at that Europa League, it's gone right to his head.
Yeah.
Spurs did well getting
Have
rid
you
of
seen?
him.
Have you seen the clip of it?
I have.
He's terrified because he's being fed it with a fucking big knife.
I've not been fed like this since
I've
I
not
was
agreed
one.
to be part of your viral content.
Yeah,
But which is why I'm surprised he let it happen.
It's just relaxed.
he should have clouted him.
Maybe they had him at gunpoint.
Just
I don't
who he
know.
is, mate.
It's just who he is.